Peacock Angel by E.S. Drower, being some account of votaries of a secret cult and their sanctuaries. Chapter 17, The Shrines of Shaikh. Close at hand, the sacred water from the nymph's own cave welled forth with murmurs musical. Theocritus, Edel 7. Lying abed the next morning, I took myself to task for the muddled impression I had received of the whole place. I resolved to get a clear plan of the shrines into my head, to explore the maze of buildings and rocks with method. The bother is, I excuse myself, that it is all so lovely and unexpected, so intricate and flower-grown, that one is enticed away like Red Riding Hood in the wood, and forgets even to make notes, and the result will be that all serious observation of fact will be obscured by the memory of irrelevant small delights. So after Mikhail had brought me breakfast upon the sunny terrace, placing the table in the shade of the mulberry tree, I got out a pencil and my fat notebook, determined to be conscientious. Hadja put himself entirely at my disposal. He knew the shrines and would take me everywhere. I began with the baptism cisterns. Of two open cisterns, it is the lower which is used for baptism. In both, one can see the curious yellow and black newts. The stone bottom. The baptism cistern is filled from above by water, which leaves by two spouts, and the center of its floor is deeper than the sides by a step, so that I presume the Baptist, who may be either a fakir or a peer, stands on one level, and the person baptized on the other. A small archway, closed by a wooden door, allows water to flow down from an upper chamber, the entrance to which is above. I asked several times about baptism. Only males are baptized in the open cistern. Yazidis, like Christians, go through the ceremony once only, but baptism is not vital to salvation, nor is it looked upon as an admittance to the sect. It merely confers sanctity, purity, and a blessing. It can be performed nowhere else, and if circumstance prevents a person from ever coming to Shaikh, he is in danger of no pains or penalties. The ceremony may be performed late in life, but it is the duty of every Yazidi parent to try to bring his children to the holy water for the rite. The baby, child, or youth, divested of all garments and immersed completely 3 times. The fakir or peer does not undress, but wears new clothes for the occasion. He does not pray at length, but merely invokes the name of God. And this information from the fakir is accepted with reserve. Well, maybe they mean something different when they say God versus what other people do, right? A boy pays 75 fiels, about 1 shilling, $6, for his baptism. A girl, 50 fiels. And the baptism cisterns, we see bunch of uneven tiles. Maybe this is not the water where the water is, or perhaps it is at sometimes, because it seems like there's steps in going down. Girls who are also asked to undress are immersed in the closed chamber above. To reach tills, one ascends steps to the left of the tanks, a low door giving admission. Hadja had not the key, so we could only surmise what it was like by listening to sounds of rushing water within. The entrance is surmounted by a worn inscription in Arabic, and the 7 stones of which doorpost and lintel are formed are decorated by low reliefs which show good craftsmanship. The principal design is a vase with a flower-shaped top, a trefoil or fleur-de-lis adorning the body of the vase, which stands on a plain, well-defined stand. On either side of the vase appears handles or lugs resembling stems or branches with floriated ends. A second chamber, also closed, lies above the baptism chamber for girls, for both are built on the hillside. The baptism chambers and cisterns are crowned by a white cone, and the whole is known as Khan Yaspe. Noticeable on the walls of the shrine and that of Sheikh Shems, to which steps past the chambers lead, is the prevalence of the cross motif on decorated stone blocks, which occur here and there. Opposite the girls' chamber is a very small dried tree, to which are tied many votive eggs. Women pilgrims bag a tiny scrap of its wood, which they suspend around the necks of their babies in the belief that it will avert the evil eye. Grass, daisies, buttercups, dandelion clocks, and grape hyacinth crop between every paving stone. And some aspects of the connectivity of the blocks around the entryway make one think of a swastika, particularly the parts that are still in one piece over the thing, like there was a full swastika at some point over the thing, which some people will take issue with because, well, they forget that the synagogues in the 1920s had them too. Now I can't quite make out the inscription from this picture. Yeah, I have I don't know if that's supposed to be a wow or what letter is that supposed to be, because that's kalam, probably. Well, I'm going to give up on saying it. There's these flower designs, I mean triangles, 6 triangles inside a circle. Over the top. Oh, and they all seem to be arranged just a little bit different, don't they? The one on the right side of the door, the left side of the door, the 2 at the top, they're all twisted a little bit different. And so those could be vases on each side of the circular design, or they could somehow connect to people. Or something that shows human anatomy of some sort. The shrine of Sheikh Shems, second in importance only to that of Sheikh Adam. Oh yeah, and you take a step up before going through that doorway. Is at the top of the flight of steps. I noticed that the official title of the shrine, Sheikh Shamsuddin, was little used by the Yazidis, and indeed, I think that any human son of the faith has long ago been eclipsed by the sun god himself. There was an actual Sheikh Shamsuddin, grandson to Sheikh Ada's successor, and his full name was Hassan ibn Ada Shamsuddin. The of the faith part of the name now provides a convenient Muslim disguise, and Sheikh Shems may be no other than the ancient sun god Shemsh in the Bible, to whom their neighbors in the south, the Mandaans, still pay left-handed worship, the sun together with that mysterious spirit of the place, whose sign visible is leaping water, are the divinities, or perhaps one should say symbols of Godhead, most honored in the valley. The lion, which appears on so many of the lintels, is a sun beast, and representations of the sun occur over and over again, accompanied by his sister orb, the moon, and attendant stars. A portico stands before the shrine door of Shaikh Shems, and above the latter is in sides the likeness of a Yazidi cone spire with a crescent moon and star beside it. There are other decorated stones on the wall to the left. On the right of the door, a snake in the usual elongated position is carved. On the face of the threshold stone, there's a star. On the wall at the right, a gopal. Now, there's an idea that Shaitan incarnated in different snake forms as well, or in different periods as a snake. Our hook stick at the entrance of the shrine. I remove my shoes, but the tomb within is not so worthy of notice. Steps continue up to the flat roof upon which stands the solid base of the fluted spire. The latter culminates in a gold or gold-plated ball. The shrine stands much higher than Sheikh Adad's, and the ball must catch first rays of the rising sun when it strikes up the valley. Now, if you remember one of my experiences I shared from my Ekankar operations, something about the group of snakes, right? So that's an idea too, that there is a group of things that appears like snakes, just like those ancient Egyptian statues and some of the stuff in Eurasia. But Shaitan is known, so we know the Peacock, 4750 BCE. And before that, you had snake forms and you had lion forms and vulture forms. Shoes for the tomb is not worthy of notice. Well, not everything is about the physical. Oh, the description's marvelous. Sometimes the most plain places of worship are the ones that are the most. And sometimes there's things about the shape or the proportions or something that you just don't get if you don't put it into practice. So to continue up the flat roof, which stands at the solid base of the fluted spire, that later culminates in gold or gold-plated ball. The shrine stands much higher than Sheikh Adad's, and the ball must catch the first rays of the rising sun when it strikes up the valley. The decorative ornament at Sheikh Adad, on the wall going up to Sheikh Shems, we have more triangular 5 bits, and it connects to the other, sort of like a 5-pointed cross. I don't know, a pentacle. Do you call it? Yeah, I guess you would call it a pentacle, but it's not the ones with the points. And then there's this border that reminds you of a rope, but the rope divides that further. So you, instead of 10 sections, you have 20 sections. And for some, the number 25 is the number of the sun, because there are some physical things that compare to that. We also have the number of the sun being 36 and 666. The Camia square of Mars is 5 by 5 squares. So over the arch above the first flight of steps to Sheikh Shems, we have a bigger border of a circle and a smaller border of a circle and a closer to a Maltese cross in between. So that's in 8 sections. So 10 sections of all. On the arch, we just have 3 triangle bits, forming a cross that's kind of broken a bit, and a cross that's not so much going like an X. So 5 sections. The grass and flowery terrace of the next hill are flush with the roof of Sheikh Shams, and walking off the roof in a westerly direction, we arrived at the shrine of Lady Fakra. As I have said in an earlier chapter, this saint is the patroness of women in childbirth, and dust from her shrine is helpful to labor if placed under the pillow or drunk with a little water. Barren women put clay made of the dust on their heads when their husbands visit the nuptial couch. It is a good spot from which to look down the valley where white spires arise from amongst the leafy woods, while here and there on the rock sides of the hills on either side stand pilgrim huts or lesser shrines, doorless, the dark arches seen thus in the distance, looking like watching eyes. Bees buzzed among the flowers, and on the steps grew Solomon's seal, its creamy bells drooping downward and swaying with the weight of the visiting insects. The next shrine moving across is that of Nasr ad-Din. It is a plain, vaulted building without either forecourt or cone or even a doorway. A double arch replaces the latter, and a crude lion guards the left and a coiled snake the right of the entrance. It is the only serpent in this position that I saw at Sheikh Ada. A little higher up, we came to the shrine of Kade or Kade Bilban. Above the entrance is another crude lion, his jaws open and his tail curved over his back, and either side of it elongated vertical serpents of the usual Yazidi pattern. The building has a second entrance, also decorated with carvings, including a gopal. A little downhill to the left is a sacred tree with niches beside it for lamps. Haja told me that dust from the shrine of Nasr ad-Din was efficacious for stomach disorders and cured constipation. We had now crossed the head of the flowery valley and going steeply downhill and crossing by stepping stones, a stream almost hidden here and there by overhanging blackberry bushes. We mounted the hill which rises on the north of the valley. And okay, the snake veers left and right and left and kind of straights up, and so yeah, there's a pair of this, and there's a kind of design. Okay, it's like an X and then 3 holes or dents, I guess, into the other in each of the 4 quadrants. But when the X's connect, it's almost like there's a little trident thing. Here there is a cavern. Yeah, and it looks like you step up to, one step to get in. And here there is a cavern in the rocky face, and we entered it, for said Haja, it's the shrine especially visited by women. In the middle of the cavern is a pillar coated with cement and whitewashed. Whether this phallic object was originally natural rock or not, I did not discover. Women embrace it with both arms, endeavoring to make their fingertips meet, and pray, if barren, that their wombs may be opened, or if unwedded, that a husband may soon remove their virginity. Each suppliant brings an offering with her, and when her wish is granted, she makes a gift in token of gratitude. The cave, or rather the pillar, is called Ustuna Marada, and the sun actually shines on the pillar, which is part of it. It's not completely straight, and it does seem to connect to the rocky cave, crag above and all that. And they see, and the woman in the picture seems quite pleased, hugging the pillar. Close by, on the same hillside, is an oblong chapel, the shape and construction of which differs considerably from those of other shrines, the blocks of which it is built are carefully shaped, and the top is ventilated by small blocks set endways at regular intervals. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blocks, and a hole in the next row between larger blocks. All significant, right? There is no mortar between the stones, and they are so well cut that they lie even. Above the door, there is a low relief of 2 chained leopards facing each other, and on one of the doorposts is a design portraying a chain. This is the shrine of Pir Hajela, whose peculiar power it is to cure the distraught. Dust from this shrine mixed with water from the sacred springs. When placed upon the head, it is thought to recall the wits of those whose minds are wandering, and obstinate or violent cases are brought here and chained inside for a night or so until the saint drives out the spirit of madness which possesses them. And is there windows in the door, or is it is just, the door is more broken in on the one side, towards the top? I'm not sure. So there's an archway of 3 stones as the doorway. And I don't need to count all the stones. I just, Another shrine, also on the northern side of the valley, is called Shaikh Samail, but I was unable to elicit clearly the medicinal value of dust from this spot. Haja remembered something about hawa, wind, which is a generic name for all bodily pains, whether caused by flatulence, rheumatism, or pneumonia. Well, if you have issues breathing, it can connect with a lot of stuff, right? I went presently on some errand to Mehmeh, the doctor's wife, in her quarters. In the courtyard, I passed 2 other lodgers in the shrine. One, a Yazidi lad of 20, probably related to the fakir. Another, a sheikh, a brown-bearded and gentle, a very likable person. He was usually to be found on the pavement under the pergola, chipping away at a piece of wood, for he manufactured spoons from the oak wood which the valley provided. Spoons, coming from so holy a place, are greater valued by pilgrims and others, and the sheikh travels round Yazidi villages with them, or gives them the pilgrims, receiving in exchange a gift of money, or a sheep or goat, or even a chicken. These are not payments, but return gifts. In such manner, it seemed that the sheikh contrived to make a living. When I returned to Baghdad, I was the possessor of one of these spoons, embellished by a carving made by one of my policeman friends. Later in the day, I received a visit from 2 of the white ladies, Deya Kota, and Deya Rosa, Cabana or abbess and novice, respectively. Both arrived with their spindles in their hands. Deya Kota had a skein of white lamb's wool over her arm. The novice was twisting strands for wicks. I had to call in Jadon to translate, as they knew no language but Kurdish. And a bad interpreter he was. If the conversation became anything more than "what is this" or "what is that," he either paraphrased according to his own ideas, or else broke down and giggled nervously. Well, that may have not had anything to do with him being a bad translator, just somebody who couldn't hold her peace socially. The ladies remained and drank tea with me, and then took their leave, while the fakir presently appeared going his rounds with his flaming dish of wicks, which he had kindled with a brand taken from the coffee hearth. To use a match would be profanation. I noticed the Shaikh, while lighting his pipe, used a flint and tinder. Fakir Reshu progressed swiftly, almost pattering along on his bare feet up the rocky paths and paved ways, laying his wicks on accustomed places, blackened by centuries of illumination, only pausing now and then to ladle out a little oil. The result of his ministrations is that when the sun has left the gorge, small flames spring up like flowers everywhere, extinguished as soon as the wick is consumed, when the charred threads, light and brittle, fall to the ground or are blown away. Perhaps, I thought, the mystics who once dwelt here saw in these flames a symbol of human life, a sixth of an hour of life, and then black extinction, until the divine servitor again pours in the oil of life from his inexhaustible store. Soon after he had passed, the Yaqta and the novice set out on their evening visit to the shrines in the valley. Catching a glimpse of them on their way down, I followed at a discreet distance. When I reached the court before the temple, I saw the younger, the novice, praying at the open door of the shrine, gazing towards the dim glimmer of lamps in the darkness within. She prayed with hands extended, palms upward, then bent herself to the ground and kissed the threshold stone. Next, by the stones, by the door, and then the outer wall in several places. Silent as a wraith, she moved around the temple court, putting her lips to a stone here, a corner block there, and sometimes a paving stone, in a methodical way, as if she were simply carrying out the usual routine. I heard a childish voice from the nuns' quarters calling to her that the food was ready. It was a small girl who often accompanied Daya Kota and was, Mama told me, her niece. The novice made no sign that she heard, nor did she hurry. Above in the dusk, I saw the aged nun on grass grown, moving to supper, bowed and slow of gait, and I wondered if the abbess's pretty girl was destined to this life of devotion, and, if so, whether she would end up like the Norn-like old creature above us. Deyakote certainly would not, I thought. She came here a widow, her life behind her, and is, moreover, far too intelligent ever to become the husk, which is all that is left of her aged sister. After the storms of lay life, she is in peace here, and her smile is that of one who has found harbor and happiness. Now, sometimes that is function of monasteries, is those who aren't married or those who can't be married yet, that they're living that life. Of course, if they can be married, I would say that they, to someone decent and all that, they should make their way out. But then a monastery for somebody who's young enough could prevent that, because people, for one reason or not. Haja, a Yazidi boy, came to me soon after with a distressed look in his brown eyes. Why did I not eat? Why had I refused the meat and chicken which the fakir had sent us? I explained that I had eaten and enjoyed the excellent rice and burgal, the curds and spring water, but they must not be hurt by my refusal of meat, because I never ate it, not even in my own house. Was I fasting, they asked? For here there is a religious motive for most things. No, I said. I tried to explain I preferred a meatless diet. They were puzzled, and at the end, I think, put it down to some vow. Do not Yazidis fast before swallowing sacred dust? As I stood in the forecourt that evening, I saw Venus riding in the night sky. La Illa, said Jadon, gazing up. He looked for Majnun, but we could not discern lesser stars, for the spring sky was still light. They say, said Jadon, that these two were lovers, and that when they died, by the power of God, they became stars. In the summer, they say, La Illa goes to the hot places such as Baghdad, but Majnun to the cold, to the mountains. The true name of the boy, Khatun, I forgot, for Majnun was not his real name. He was so called because he was mad for La Illa. Layla. So, and anyways, Layla and Majnun, the Arabic words would be crazy or possessed and night. Jadon, I replied, I know the story. I read that he searched everywhere for Layla, seeing her in the flowers and in the very dust because her image dwelt in his heart and came before his eyes. Ay, that is the story. We looked a while at Layla, serene in the clear sky, and then I bade him good night, mounted my lodging by the rushing water, and was soon asleep. Now, at some point, not only is it a disguise, but at some point people could have realized it doesn't matter. You're really calling on the same thing, other than what the Muslims consider to be God, whether you put a saint name on it or not. A Muslim isn't allowed to, they don't worship objects. Amulets and shrines is not part of Islam. There may be objects that they use that may be permissible to an extent, but the idea that this thing just hangs as having power to protect you, or that has its own power, are like these prayer flags that flap in the wind, that you just leave them and people act like it's praying for you, or the wheels, or making pilgrimage shrines and all that stuff. That obviously comes with something else, but a lot of people want to partially be part of the religion, right? Or they want to be part of multiple religions at the same time.